Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all keeping well on your side and that you can all hear me. You can see my presentation for today. Please give me a thumbs up that everything is in order. Okay, thank you very much. So I think while we wait for other people who are looking to join today's class, I think perhaps let me ask you all how are things going? How has your week been? Have you started doing the assignments? Okay, I see there are some people busy typing their responses in the chat box. So I think in the meantime, I'm just going to get started today's workshop, which is going to look at how do we then write and also edit a drama or a screenplay text for the upcoming portfolio. So you'll find that a lot of this information, it is applicable only to assessment three. But if you find that, there are parts of this presentation that you would like to apply in your assessment two, then you are more than welcome to do so. So Maria in the chat box says, my week has been busy. I was writing assignment. I've already submitted assignment two. Your voice is low. Let me see if I can use the voice. Let me just see if I can adjust the microphone quickly. So technology on a Monday is like the worst thing ever. Please confirm if my voice is actually better now and that you can all hear me properly. Okay, so Mr. Peaceful says, good morning, everyone. My week has been good, and yes, I've been busy with assignments which are still in progress. Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing, Mr. Peaceful, and I hope that you're going to submit those assignments on time. There's nothing worse than trying to submit an assignment the night that it is actually due, and you find that my Lisa is actually not working, and that alone it becomes a big catastrophic failure altogether. So, in front of you, you will see that this is the agenda for today's workshop. We're going to start off with writing the stage play. How do we write a play? And also, how do we write a screenplay? And then we're going to take a short break and we're going to then look at the editing aspect of it. How do we then edit a play, or how do we edit a screenplay? Before I proceed, I just want to ask you guys: Did you all receive the email from me where I outlined basically a copy of the presentation, the lesson recording, and also a special call for short stories from Writers South Africa. So if you have not, please remember to check your emails where I reminded you all about the upcoming workshop and also a call for short stories and also poems or posted by the Writers South Africa. So please remember to like be on the lookout for those types of emails that I will be sending. So as some of you have done, we did a little bit of check-in where we checked in on each other. My philosophy is that, as a lecturer, I think it's always important that I check on students where they are, how they are doing, and what are the things that actually stress them, or what are the things that make them happy, or things that create a sense of balance. So if you have not commented on the chat box where you expressed how your week has been, please do so. We can have a brief chat about it. You will see that I actually used this gift where Squidward is just lying in bed and he's so grumpy. Because yeah, he's just struggling to fall asleep. And that's pretty much been how my week has been, being slightly sleep deprived because of work. If it's not work, then there's school that needs my attention. So I'm just going to try something real quick to see if maybe the sound is going to be better if I use the speaker. Uh, and can you now hear me clearly? Is the sound better now? Just give me a thumbs up that um, the sound is can hear me clearly, audible. Okay, I'm going to assume that means yes. So I'm going to proceed. As I kid you not, technology on Mondays is just, I don't know, it is something else. But anyway, let us look into drama, writing drama. So for the drama section, it is imperative that for you to excel in writing a play, and also editing a play, you must consult the readings that I am going to highlight in yellow. The first one is definitely available on the library. And this one you should actually have a copy of the THL study guide, simply because for you to do a KSK module, the prerequisite is a THL module. So it is very important that when writing a dramatic text or a screenplay or even a narrative text, you also need to have your previous study guide for reference. And also the first suggested reading, which is called The Play. And what that book does is that it takes you through on what the conventions are of writing a play based on a genre of your choice, how to execute things such as the performance orientation of your play. Okay. So with that in place, the theatrical landscape in South Africa has become a very captivating and to an extent a very compelling aspect of the country's rich heritage. So because of this, the geocultural placement and also South Africa's multicultural nature has actually contributed to the various theatrical forms that have emerged um, the various theatrical forms that have emerged that have been marked by their characteristics. So this is what prominent South African theatre scholar Temple Hopeleish says. So drama in literary theory is a written language where the words are ascribed or transcribed to characters
by the writer, which in this case is you, in a theatre space, and this is spoken by the actors of your characters, and that is what um, Mark Fortier says. So if you are interested to know which specific book I am referring to, when I speak about Fortier's contextual framework into drama, or perhaps Temple Hope Blanche's historical framework of South African drama, please let me know, and then I'll let you know which specific sources I refer to. And then what Curious here says is that when it comes to contemporary theatre, drama is concerned with the relationship between the play and also the performance. So when we as markers read your play, we need to be able to clearly see that relationship between the text and the performance of your text. And this is where the adhering to the form and the structure of writing a play comes into place. Then with the stage play, so this is where a piece of text is devised by you, and what you as the playwright are doing is that you are specifying how the text should be performed. A lot of the students tend to omit certain parts of their play, in certain parts in their play, in terms of how should this action be performed, how should the sequence of events performed. So you need to specify, and you do so in parentheses, how your text should be performed, who is performing the text, and how many people are in your text. And like I said in the narrative section, ensure that the number of your characters are kept to a minimum. Try and not exceed 5. If you have too many characters in a one-act play or a three-act play, for us, it's going to be very, very difficult to pinpoint the significance of this character in the text, the role that this person plays in the text. So the play, in essence, is a type of literary text that is intended to be performed for a live audience. And this, it contains dialogues where where various characters perform their lines, and it is divided, the text in its entirety, it is divided into various scenes and also various acts. And in doing so, you as the playwright are creating what's called the dramatic effect. So when you write a play, it is important that there are 3 things that you must consider. The first being the plot and the logline. Again, in your portfolio, you are going to be instructed to include a logline of your text. If you omit the logline, you will lose marks. So here we look at what is the play about. Are you writing a play about, for example, there is a wife and she's exposed for having an affair with her brother-in-law. What are the themes or the common themes that are in your play, and how is your play going to end? So, for example, you are a playwright and you want to touch on femicide. You want to touch on things such as mind control, because we've been reading a lot of conspiracy theories lately. We want to touch on things such as gender-based violence. The list simply goes on and on. And is there actually a conflict or a climax in your play, similar to the narrative text? And how is that going to be resolved? So 2 very good examples here would be Godot's, Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and also Bernard Shaw's Arms and the Man. The library actually does have these plays in case you want to look it up and read them in your own time. Then there is characters. So who are the characters in your stage play? Again, please keep them to a bare minimum. How are your characters going to interact with one another in the scene? Do you think they're going to be fond of each other? Do you think they're going to detest one another because perhaps character A feels that he is entitled to the trust fund money instead of character B? And what theatrical conventions are you going to be using in your stage play? So For the assignment, for the sake of the assignment, it is very important that you apply theatrical conventions, at least one, right? You should at least apply one theatrical theatrical convention in play. Then, lastly, we have there is the aesthetic. So this needs to coincide with the theme of your play. So what kind of lighting, stage lighting, in other words, what colors of the stage lights are you going to be using in your stage play? And this, in essence, it informs the mood, it informs the tone of your play. And from an audience point of view, it also informs the overall atmosphere. So if you're going to be writing a very dark play that is about murder, suicide, death, then the kind of lighting that you will most likely use is dark lighting, just to give that dark aesthetic of writing a play that is about this. And then also, when you are specifying the kind of stage lighting that you're going to use, keep in mind that this is actually a vision that you intend on bringing to life, and that it's a vision that changed in any form of way by the reader, or even in the professional world, the director. So one of the things that you need to avoid when writing your play is that in your dialogue, please don't use the open and it's something that when I was moderating portfolios last year, second semester, this was still a recurring problem where students, when it comes to writing dialogue, they applied the open and closed inverted commas. And in red, I'm going to state, written again that you are actually going to be penalized because you're simply not adhering to the format of a play. Right. Open and closed inverted commas, single open and closed inverted commas, that's stuff that belongs in the narrative text. So if I see something like this in your portfolio or your assessment too, you are going to be penalized. Please avoid writing very, very long monologues or soliloquies. In other words, perhaps overusing a theatrical convention, monologue and soliloquy being one of them. Please avoid putting in too many soliloquies, too many monologues, and avoid having written a play that doesn't have a very clear ending. So your audience needs to be able to see that, okay, is the ending clear in the sense that, okay, it's ending with a cliffhanger, or the ending is left to us as the audience member, it's left for interpretation. Please don't use dialogue that is very boring or cliche, especially when you're writing a love scene involving two people who are expressing their love for one another. So things such as "I love you with all my heart," or "you're the only one for me." I can tell you right now, it's stuff that actually makes the marker internally cry. And please do not write dialogue where when the character is speaking, he is providing his biographical sketch. That doesn't really make sense. So please try and avoid that at all costs. Then we have convention. So this is what I briefly spoke about earlier. So for you to familiarize yourself with the conventions of the play that you need to execute in the assignment, please read Larissa Curiosity's The Play and Manual, pages 10 to 15, which is available in the library. So when you have your plot, your log line, your characters, the setting, you need to decide what theatrical conventions are applicable. to a play that you are writing about, for example, gender-based violence. So some of the notable theatre conventions would be aside, monologue, soliloquy, addressing the audience, role play, and play within a play. So just make sure that you read each of those theatrical conventions in detail, and then see which one am I actually going to use in the in the play. So before I get to the format, I just want to find out if anyone has any questions. So while everyone is thinking whether they have any questions, I think I've got a question during the weekend regarding the portfolio, where students are instructed to produce students are instructed to produce 10 plays, right? And then the query was, but if I count all of them, it adds up to 12 instead of not 10. Like the math is not mathing. What does that mean? So just to clarify on that, if, for example, you are going to write a haiku, the guideline says that if you're going to write a haiku, you need to produce 2 haikus. If you are going to write a sestina, the guideline states, for example, to produce 2 sestinas. By then, you already have 4 poems. The aim is that all of the your poems need to add up to 10. Right. So the question is asking. It's not necessarily like, no, you need to produce 10 poems. No, it's just telling you, it's informing you that if you are going to write a haiku, right? And the portfolio, the question on the portfolio says you must produce 2 haikus. You've already got 2 out of 10 poems that you have produced. Okay. So I hope this this clarifies the question regarding that portfolio assignment. Yes, now, lady, you can unmute yourself for his witness.
Hi.
Morning.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. So I have a question regarding the stage and screenplay. How how do you know when to like end a scene?
Oh, okay. All right. So with the screenplay, I'm going to get into that just now, and then I will also touch on when can you then know when you can actually end? When is it the right time to end the scene? So I'm definitely going to be getting into that just now. So I'm assuming there aren't any other questions for now. Yeah, so guys, please for each workshop that you come to, please remember to bring questions that that you might have, so that you don't find yourself panicking as we're nearing the days of submitting the assignment. Now it's like, oh my goodness, I need to like message Miss Rada and find out, you know, if this and this is right, and the assignment is due in the next 3 hours. So with the format of the play, remember that your play needs to have a very eye-catching title. So if I see, okay, when I say eye-catching title, please avoid giving us titles that are a little bit generic. So for example, 7 Deadly Sins. Like if you're going to name your play the seven deadly sins. Like that for me personally, it's a bit too generic. It's not eye-catching. Yeah, so remember to give the title of your text an eye-catching title. So on what you do then, on a separate page, you need to list, right? Notice how I use the verb list. List all of your characters, and then you need to briefly explain who they are and, where applicable, state what form, what any kind of relationship that they have with the other character. Okay. So when you give us a nice English word for that is dramatis personae, you have to list them. Don't discuss who your characters are. List them. So I'm going to put this section in this example. I'm going to circle it in red as an example of listing your characters and explaining who they are and what relationship they have with other characters. Secondly, you need to provide a log line for your play. So the log line, it normally goes before the actual play starts. Okay. So the log line needs to be at least 2 sentences where you are trying to grab our attention, where you capture the play's direction or events that are going to unfold. So for example, a log line here is a physical altercation occurs between 2 friends. And then the one friend accidentally pushes the other friend, resulting in him hitting his head against a coffee table, and he ends up bleeding from it. So that is very eye-catching. By including a very compelling log line, you've already now convinced the marker. Now I need to keep reading this text. Then at the top of your page, which is aligned center, aligned center or left, you need to provide the scene number of your play. So some playwrights can be a little bit creative where they provide the title of they state the act, scene, and scene number, and then they give that a title, which is seen in this example. Yeah. So when you describe your scene, please remember to do so. Right. And you need to do it this should be done in detail. So for example, consider what are the objects in the scene, where are they being placed, how are they being placed, what's the texture of these objects? Is the desk, for example, on stage left dusty because it hasn't been for a long time? Is the painting that has been placed just behind the desk on stage left a very old fashion painting that's reminiscent of one of Vincent van Gogh's painting? Be very, very detailed in describing the setting of the scene before the play actually starts. And then when it comes to the name of your characters, this has to be italicized, followed by a colon, not a semicolon, a colon. So in some playwrights, they use the colon. Some playwrights, they actually omit this, but you actually have the choice of whether you want to include the colon next to the name of the character or not. And any additional information on how a character is saying something or doing something, you write it in black brackets, and that has to be italicized. So for example, the excerpt here shows that this character, Lieutenant, he is shaking his head while he is muttering the words ish. Right. Then we have the screenplay. So are any of you interested or have expressed some interest in exploring the screenwriting space like professionally? Or is it something that you want to experiment with it before you decide to pitch your? Okay, interesting. All right. So the screenplay, so Michael Tiona wrote a book, and it is called Aristotle Poetics for Screenwriters. And I always tell to students and even aspiring writers that, if you want to become a screen writer, if you want to write for television, I always recommend that book, Michael Tuono's Aristotle Poetics for Screenwriters, because that is like, I call it the sacred book for aspiring screenwriters, because the book actually equips you with all the tools on how to successfully draft a screenplay for a studio house. So Michael Tuono says that the screenplay is a document that outlines the story, the characters, dialogue, and visual elements of a film or a television show. So it is actually a blueprint for the production team, like your directors, producers, even the cinematographer for that matter, actors and other crew to follow when they are tasked with creating the final product. So just think about that movie or television series that you recently watched, and think about the the mechanics that went into producing that final product by the directors, the cinematographer, Gaffer, the boom swinger, on and on. So when you write a screenplay, you need to have a concept, right? And stick to the format and the font. So the most commonly used font is Fourier Sans. However, for the assignment, because this is an assignment, just stick to Times New Roman or Arial. The characters in your screenplay, screenplay should be characters that the audience are either going to relate to or dislike. So I always go back to that analogy of, when you watch a television series and then there's that character that you hate so much because character keeps on getting away with every bad thing that he or she is doing. So that is what I mean by saying characters in your screenplay, characters that the audience is going to relate to or simply just detest. And also, how do your characters speak in dialogue? So do you have characters that speak in their mother tongue, purely in their mother tongue, because English is just not their first language? Do you have characters who only speak English, or whatever the case may be? So when you looking at the format of writing the screenplay, you have to think there are some key terms and key concepts at this stage when you are doing the assignment that you should be familiar with. Technical terms that screenwriters should familiarize themselves with. But however, for the sake of the assignment, there are four us. So the first one being interior and exterior. So here you are indicating whether this scene is taking place indoors. So if it's taking place indoors, use the abbreviation INT. If it's taking place outdoors, use the abbreviation EXT. Then there's the term called fade in and fade out. So this is often used at the beginning of the play, which is fade in, and also at the end of the screenplay, which is fade out. So fade in and fade out, it's a term that indicates, okay, the scene has now commenced. And then when you know that, okay, this scene should now come to an end, you use fade out. But that is normally when the whole movie is actually going to come, is actually ending. And also take note of how they're actually written in capital letters. Then there's the term called cut to. So cut to belongs within the text where if the scene is going to be transitioning from a scene in the office to a scene at the park. So this is what it means. So it's literally transitioning from one scene to another scene. Then that's when you would use the term cut to. If the scene is transitioning, please do not use the phrase fade out because you are basically saying that, okay, your screenplay is now finished. We have reached the end. No. Transitioning to another scene, you use the term cut to. And then the VO, the voiceover. So that is when perhaps the scene is happening and then there's a voiceover of a person speaking in the background. Okay. So that's essentially the format of writing the screenplay. So what we're going to do is that we're going to take a short 5-minute break and we will be back at 10:40. Yeah, let's be back at 10:45. Right. We're going to take a short break and then we will be back at 10:45. Okay, and we're back. We're almost finished. So yeah, we are almost there. Yeah. So before we get to the editing part, I just want you to share, like, comment on the group, the comment box, the chat, um, in terms of which one do you think is your favorite play, your your personal favorite play, or your least favorite play? And which one do you think, would you say it is your personal favorite film? And, or perhaps which one is your least favorite film? And, explain why. Because when it comes to editing and reading and learning how to write and edit stuff, we always go back to that text or that film and say, no, this is my personal favorite because I liked how the characters were very diverse. I loved how, it was like directed. I liked the ending. It was very um, unexpected. So I think I have two. So while everyone is writing, I think I will share two, which one I used for as an example. So my personal favorite from this year, it's a horror slasher film called Terrifier 3. It came up. One of the reasons why I thought it was probably one of my favorite horror films from an academic standpoint is because the film itself, it actually is a project, an archetype of a traditional horror slasher film. So that is one of the reasons why I felt this is actually one of my personal favorite because it's it's a quintessential uh, horror, classic horror slasher film. And then the other one, I didn't really like it, to be quite honest. It was on Netflix, Stephanie's One Year's Homemaker. I liked the storyline. I liked the universal themes that were in the film. I think that was interesting. I liked the characterization. But oh my goodness, I just wished that the characters, when they spoke their lines, I wished they would speak it in their home language because it would have had a greater impact on the audience. And because of that, a lot of the scenes for me they fell flat. And I thought that maybe the universal themes would have been, conveyed much better. So those are like that's what I would deem as my personal favorite and my least favorite. I saw there was a hand up by someone, or has your question been answered, or do you still want to ask the question? Also, while everyone else is writing, I saw this new shrink that's going to come out, and my heart literally sank. I, I don't know, maybe I'm perhaps over exaggerating. Like my heart literally sank because of the quality of like how those characters were animated. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the quality, like a movie like Shrek. But anyway, so Elizabeth says my favorite play that we've been analyzing in the creative writing is The Raisin in the Sun. The storyline is still fitting and relatable today. Thanks so much for sharing. Great stuff. And is there a particular character that you like in A Raisin in the Sun, Elizabeth? Just out of like curiosity. Okay, Maria says, The Island is my favorite play. I love the way the writers use parody. My least favorite play is Marbles. The characters speak in riddles. I felt like I was losing my mind when we Oh, sounds very avant. That sounds very avant-garde. The way that you described your least favorite play. Um, America says, I actually went to watch the play adaptation of My Fair Lady on the last day of production at Monte Cassino. I quite liked it. The actors really portrayed the characters well, especially the accent. It's funny and I really like it. So thanks so much for sharing, America. No, normally, when I have to like watch an adaptation, something that has been, adapted, I always go in there with one eye open because I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so scared that, the way that they performed, like it might, lose, it won't be like how, like the original text, which is kind of what's going on with the debacle surrounding this new Harry Potter. That the people that have been cast for the new Harry Potter has been released, and people are like throwing a fit about it that no, this is not who Snape is supposed to be, like he was described in the books, like. But yeah, when watching a live performance that's been performed a number of times, that has been adapted a number of times, I always go in there just with one eye. Yes, Naledi, you can unmute your microphone.
Hi.
Hi.
Um, first of all, we we should we should did you hear that asshole few got passed away?
Yes, yes, that was unfortunate. Ethel Fugard, yeah, that was ish. Yeah, that was really sad. Yeah.
So my favorite play is my children, my Africa. I I actually had the luxury of seeing of seeing them of seeing the actors rehearse the play. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, today is today the today is the first day where they are going to perform it at the state theater. So yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. I must definitely look up on it because my children my Africa is like the type of play that became, I don't know, it became a marker, like a permanent marker for what a quintessential not only South African theatre play should be, but the post colonial theatre. So thanks so much for raising that, Navit.
So
Uh,
yeah, I will be
mm,
going to see it on Wednesday, but I had the luxury of like interacting with the
mm.
actors and yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
So
please do. In the next creative writing session, please do tell us what it was like, and if like we maybe took any pictures, we would definitely love to know. So please share with us, when you go and watch the live performance, who you got to meet. And yeah, please do take pictures.
yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay. So no Lisa, she says my children, my Africa is my favorite play. I like how diverse the characters are, but they all have something to relate. I also like the Final Destination movies. I like how they're always unpredictable. No, so let me tell you a story about Final Destination. So I was driving from the Eastern Cape. This was in January, towards end of January. I was driving from the Eastern Cape back to Pretoria because I spent the festive season back in the Eastern Cape. And for me, I'm used to driving very long hours. It's a 13-hour drive actually. Then I get to the N6, right? And I see there is this truck in front of me. And this truck has loaded, I see a lot of wood, but the kind of wood that was cut from trees. And I am like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna keep my distance as far as I can from this moving truck and see if, okay, whenever there's a chance to overtake, I'm going to overtake because of that scene from Final Destination. I don't know. As a driver, it really, really traumatized me because, yeah, very unpredictable. And I believe there's a new Final Destination movie coming out later this year. Yeah. So when it comes to editing, Tamunde, I see your hand is up.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you today?
I'm good. My favorite play is The Suit by Ken Temba.
Nice.
I love the plot of the play, and I
Yes.
love how the actors portray their character very well. And
Mm.
yeah, I wouldn't want a man like Philemon in my life,
Yeah.
It's not easy, every
Yeah.
day carrying a suit, going around with a suit, because you have to take care of the guest that
Yeah.
left the suit while
Yeah.
the actual person ran away,
Yes.
I love it because I got the moral of the story that cheating
Mm.
is not good, and not all
Yeah.
men will shoot you when they find you with other men in
Yeah.
in their bedroom. Some will abuse you mentally,
Mm.
until you die the way Matilda died, because it was every
Yeah.
day's punishment. When they wake up, she has to bring the suit to the dining table.
Mm.
When they go out, the
Yeah.
suit. So that's one of my favorite plays.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. And I think just to add to what you said, I think to a degree, one can actually say the suit is also a reflective play because it reflects on things that resonate with a lot of people. And I always argue. I'm like, guys, we talk about this thing, the COVID-19 was the pandemic, so the pandemic was an epidemic, but things
Yes.
like, cheating, that
Yeah.
should be a pandemic on its own because it's like there's no cure for it, no vaccine has been developed. Like it's just, something that you hear of every single day. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Perhaps consider writing an essay about that and then submit it to a place like LitNet.
Submitting it to him, ma'am.
LitNet. I'm going to write it on the chat box.
Okay, please do. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So with the editing of the play, guys, just remember to take the following into account. The sequence of the events, they have to flow logically, and the events must flow sequentially. If the events aren't sequential, guys, note that you're going to get penalized for this, and the marker might include a brief comment and say events are difficult to follow. Remember that your dramatic text must showcase, be indicative of the scene, the makeup that the character is going to be wearing to show that, oh, okay, this person is a plumber, this person works as a teacher, this person works as a journalist. Be also very cautious with how the characters are going to move on stage, especially when there is dialogue involved. So if your character is getting angry at a situation, be mindful, how is this character, what action is this character doing? Is the character like throwing a vase because she's so angry by the fact that she's experienced betrayal firsthand. And the dialogue should be embedded in the theme, the main theme of your dramatic text. So if I read a line like, I can't remember anything, all I know is that I woke up and my baby was sweet Anastasia is not in her crib. That dialogue alone tells me that, okay, this one of the overarching themes of this play would be a suspense. Your dialogue should also be embedded in the roles that the characters play. So does your play have protagonists, anti-heroes, or antagonists? So for example, if we look at this film, one of my personal favorites, to be quite honest, the film Transformers: Age of Extinction. This one villain, right? I'm not even sure if I would call him a villain, but rather an anti-hero. Lockdown. He says that the trouble with loyalty to the cause is that the cause will always betray you. So that alone indicates that he's not necessarily a protagonist. He's also not necessarily an antagonist, but he's the anti-hero in the story. So be very wise with how you create dialogue that gives away what kind of character we are reading in your text, and also the dialogue informing the theme of your text, right? Then, in terms of editing the screenplay, so this method, I think it was like two years ago, I was going through the tutorial letters and reflecting on the performance of the portfolios, and one of them being I picked up students didn't implement or didn't utilize the elements of editing the screenplay effectively. So I was like, let me just create a method called the SCAD method, which is going to be easier for students to follow. So the SCAD method, that is a method of editing your screenplay using scene transition, action, dialogue, and characterization. So just remember to go through each aspect in your okay. So with the screenplay, ask yourself, are the scene transitions effectively done very, very well? So am I using the correct terminology to show that this scene is now transitioning to the other scene? Did I use the phrase cut to indicate that the scene in the bedroom is now transitioning to the scene in the kitchen? Have I utilized action? Has action been effectively implemented in my screenplay? And characterization, are all the characters clear? Is it easy for the reader to actually understand who my characters are? And has the dialogue been effectively applied? Okay. And then in terms of the format of your screenplay, when editing the format, just note that if your screenplay is divided into a number of acts, just begin your screenplay by indicating the number followed by an innovative title. So act number, and then provide the title. And then remember to number your scene followed by the setting. So in other words, indicate whether the scene is taking place indoors or outdoors, and the time of the day, which is highlighted in yellow. Also take note of be considerate of the spatial description of your scene. So unlike the dramatic text, when you had to describe a scene, you had to do so in italics, right? Whereas with the screenplay, you actually don't have to do it in italics. Remember to name your characters followed by a comma. So this is actually a must, right? The characters need to be in capital letters, strictly followed by a colon. Okay? And the dialogue, this is written below the character. So with the play, the dialogue is written followed after mentioning the name of the character. But then in the screenplay, the dialogue is written just below in the character. And then with scene transition, please remember to use the correct terminology when your scene is transitioning from one scene to the other scene. So for the portfolio, the font of your screenplay is going to be Arial or Times New Roman. But in the professional world, we use Courier, right? And then the screenplay, just remember that it is the blueprint for the production team. So just avoid things like grammatical and syntactical errors, spelling and punctuation. And the reason why I'm actually really pressed on this is because if you use the incorrect punctuation mark in the sentence, it actually changes the meaning of your sentence. So be very, very careful in using the correct punctuation in your dialogue. And because of this, it is important that you ensure that the screenplay contains very good sentence structure, good spelling, good use of punctuation marks, because if you actually omit this, then you are going to be penalized for it because you're not adhering to the format. And also poor spelling and punctuation indicates that you actually didn't proofread. You didn't proofread your work at all. Right. Then when you edit your screenplay, do it based on the concept. So what's the screenplay about? Is it an adaptation of a book? Is it based on real life events? Is it based on perhaps a genre that you feel hasn't been explored enough? It's a paranormal thriller. And also format. It's strictly adhere to the format, you guys. I can't stress this. And then characters, ensure that the characters that you create are characters that we must relate to or have a sense of experience to it. So for example, do you want your viewer to relate to the anti-hero? Do you want your viewer to relate to, for example, the Joker because his actions are justified? And also remember to engage with the audience. Each scene needs to have a purpose. So, for example, scene one, the purpose of scene one could be small event that's going to lead to the big event, the big bang, which is also we call it the catalyst in scene five. So with that being said, are there any questions that you might have? Questions or comments? And by the way, guys, I'm still busy with reading the drafts, the assignment and also the portfolio drafts. I just asked if you could kindly please bear with me. But I can assure you that your feedback, you will get it way, way, way before the assignment